This is a device that I think is really quite only become available recently, and I certainly only heard about it recently. But what it claims to be is an all-in-one, ready-to-run 5 amp DCC command station and booster. And the idea is I don't have to plug it into a computer. I don't have to upload any code to it, sketches, config. I don't need to worry about any of that. I just plug a power supply into it. I plug my DCC bus wires into it. I turn it on. It has built-in Wi-Fi and will advertise a Wi-Fi network. So I then just use a tablet or a phone to connect to it and drive my trains, and that's it. This is the packaging then that it all came in. I have to say this was sent to me very kindly for review by Chesterfield Model Making and Miniature Electronics. And it's their website that you will be led to if you go to the DCC-EX website and click on the kind of the UK distributors link. That's the website that you'll end up on. Also in the box, as well as the device itself, there was a 15 volt 5 amp power supply, kettle lead to plug into it, and a getting started guide as well. So with this being advertised as a ready to use all-in-one device, I'm going to follow the quick start guide. I'm going to film every step and find out whether it is as easy to get going with as I hope it will be. This is the device in a little bit more detail. Then it's come in this nice enclosure which keeps all the internals out of sight. We've got the screen on the top, which will become useful soon, and then down here on the side there's the power barrel connector there. We've got 2 connections for the programming track and for main. Over here, I think this is a Railcom connector. I'm not going to be able to test that because I don't use Railcom. I think there's another connector there. There is actually a very nice graphic on the DCC-EX website, which does explain what all these connectors do and what some of the internals do as well. And then round here on the back, this little gap here is just for the Wi-Fi. There's an ESP device in here, and that's just its Wi-Fi antenna sticking out for better connectivity, I guess. And I think that's a USB-C connector, which may become useful later. So again, this hasn't been plugged into a PC in any way. I've simply taken it out of the box and brought it down to this shelf. These little terminals, the connectors for the tracker, are conveniently removable. So I've just pulled one out and I've put my bus wires, they follow them up, they go up into the track there. There's nothing in between. This goes straight to the track. Nothing sat between doing anything. And just to avoid any confusion for myself, I've completely unplugged and disconnected the old one. The computer's switched off, so it's just a case of plugging this bus wire in for the track power, and then plugging the power supply in. There is an option on the CMME website when you buy one of these to include a power supply with it. They've very kindly sent me the version that has the power supply with it. It came in the box, and this is what came. There's a kettle lead that connects to this, and this is a 5 amp 15 volt power supply with a barrel connector that will just go straight into the device. And with just those 2 connections made, there's nothing connected up at the top, I've switched it on, and immediately I've got this information on the screen that tells me how to connect to this device using Wi-Fi. It's given me an IP address, which I probably won't need, but it's also given me the Wi-Fi network that this device is advertising. It's given me its SSID and the password to connect to it. So next job is to get connected to it. I'm now going to get this old phone connected to the DCC-EX Wi-Fi network. Now it's worth remembering at this point, of course, that the DCC-EX Wi-Fi network that box I've just plugged in is advertising has no internet connection. So any phone that I'm going to use to connect to it, although this phone is currently on my home Wi-Fi network and therefore it has a Wi-Fi connection, it can download apps and all that kind of stuff, when it connects to the DCC-EX box it will no longer have an internet connection. So it's a good idea to get the I'm using an Android phone, get the engine driver app, downloaded and installed on this phone before I connect to that Wi-Fi network, because I won't be able to download and install it once I'm connected. Not quite sure how well this will work, but I'm going to try and film myself connecting to the Wi-Fi network. Somewhere this thing will have settings, and I'm going to have to kind of look over the top of my screen because I can't really see it. Connections sounds good. This is a very old version of Android, so there's no guarantee that anything will look the same. And there we go. It took a little while to find it, but here's my DCC-EX network. So it's asking me for a password, and I took a photo of the box because I didn't want to be on my hands and knees doing that. So my pass is PASS underscore in uppercase PA. I remember that I realised there's some kind of security breach going on here, but never mind. If you want to park outside my house and control my trains, you're welcome to. Be kind of fun. And then, because my eyesight's bad, E8, E6, back to characters, E8, E6, 10. Let's see how that goes. We're connected in there. It's telling me that I've got no internet connection. This is an old phone that doesn't have a SIM card, so it's not going to get any internet connection from mobile data. So let's see how far this goes. I'm going to run the engine driver app. Oh, and it wants me to do setup, so I'm going to go through this as quickly as I possibly can. Okay, yeah, whatever. All right. We'll stick with the defaults. Not that I like the defaults. Oh, here we go. So it's engine driver can provide additional functionality, including CV programming, if you're using a DCC-EX command station directly. No. So yes, I am directly using that. That's answered a question I wondered if I'd have. So here it is. I think I would connect to that, and really that's it. And the only thing I can really try for the time being, I guess, is track power. And yeah, I've put track power on, and there are lights on the front of that train. So there's nothing I've done in this process that I haven't filmed, and I've got to a point where I can control trains. I've just moved over to the other side then, because there's a stretch of track here. Because if someone is at this kind of beginner level and they're connecting a command station for the same time, it's likely that they won't have a great big complex layout like this one is. For example, all of my electrofrog points are controlled by relays, which are not switched on because the computer isn't on, because I'm not running Jmri. So if this train hits a set of points, it'll short. So I've just put it on a little stretch of track where there aren't any points for a while, and I'm just going to try and drive it up and down a little bit. So I go to select my loco. I guess I go by DCC. Now, there won't be a roster, so I need to go by DCC address. This address is memorably 25. Let's acquire it. Turn track power on. Oh, wrong button. I think there's a back button. Let's go back. Oh, that's gone badly. Let's type 25 in again just to... Oh, I know I've already got it, but you won't let me go back. There we go, there's back. So turn the track power back on. Again, see, there's a bit of buzzing and all of the lights have come on the APT, but the idea here should be that I can simply drive my Class 25. Bring it back again just by putting the reverse button on. So this command station really does do what DCC-EX say it'll do. And this really is where it does start to get interesting, because I've used the engine driver app. This is the engine driver app on Android. I've used it really quite a lot, and I did wonder, with me not using Jmri for this connection, you know, I just plugged the box in and it's doing everything itself. There's no computer, there's no Jmri running. How I would program trains, because I'd never seen an interface in the engine driver app that would allow me to program CVs on trains, decoders, and I've never had to because I always use Jmri for that. But through the setup, when I was doing the little setup wizard, it did mention it, and sure enough, if I drop this menu down, there are a lot more menu options available now that engine driver knows that I am using a DCC-EX command station and not software. There are a lot more options available, and one of them here is it DCC-EX, and if I hit that, it looks to me like this is a programming interface, which is very interesting to me, but at the minute I haven't got my programming track connected. So I'm going to go off and do that and then have a play with this. So just a couple more screw terminals and the programming track is now connected as well. I don't think the order of the cables, which way around they go, matters, but which socket each track type is connected to does matter. So the programming track goes nearest the barrel connector, and the main track output is the one above that. I've come and crouched down here by the programming track to try and demonstrate some of this. The programming track is connected just to the DCC-EX box there, DCC-EX box. So I've got my programming screen, and immediately what I really like is there's a button there that says read. So I've simply stuffed, let's move it back into the middle a little bit, put the class 25 on the programming track, and by this DCC address box here, if I hit read, we get some very enthusiastic movement from the train, but it's read that CV and it's given us a value of 25, and we can read other CVs as well. For example, I've just been and looked up, because I don't know CV numbers, and the reasons I don't know CV numbers I might go into shortly, but for example, if we try, but I've been and looked them up, I think 2, 5 and 6 are momentum, and I seem to remember that with this train I needed to add a little bit of V start momentum to it, while V mid and V high were left alone, which probably means I think that's 2, 5 and 6. So if I put a 5 in here and read it, I would expect this to be 0. Did I hit read? I probably didn't. It's hard to see through a screen. And it does have a value of 0. And again, if I go and put 6 in, I think this is V high, I would expect this to be 0 as well. However, if I put 2 in, I think I adjusted this, I would expect this to be a value slightly above 0. So let's see. Yep, there we go. That has a value above 0. So, I mean, for reading CVs, that's incredibly useful and impressive, because I think I've already mentioned I didn't expect the standalone version to be able to do this. There are, of course, write buttons there as well, and I could write CVs, and if I was familiar with how they worked, then great. But because this is a train that works and doesn't need programming, I'm not going to go to the extent of programming CVs on this. But obviously there are write buttons there, and it's very obvious that that would work. So just a couple of little extra bits that I noticed in the interface now I'm stood up and comfortable again. This button up here, this white one, would take me straight to the programming page that I was on before. There's a little close button down here that we'll get rid of it. There's another little page that I'd never seen, I don't think is available when I'm connected to Jmri, which is this power page, if I can hit it, and this gives me individual control of the power to the main track and the programming track. But it's very impressive that there are all these features of the engine driver app that I wasn't even aware of. In order to give a bit of context, then I'm going to try and do a bit of comparison. I can only really compare to the command stations that I've been involved in before. And I guess the three main areas that I want to cover are ease of use, cost, and features, functionality, extendability, that kind of thing. If I just come down and quickly move this screen, it'll go blank. I can only go by the cost that's on the CMME website today, and I've gone for full UK power supply, included power supply, and the full case, which I think is probably what they've very kindly sent me, and the cost comes to £124. I don't know if there's delivery on top of that. Sorry, I will investigate, click some buttons and see, so I can include it in the video. But as for previous command stations I've used, I'm going to kind of go through them all and how easy or difficult they were to set up and what their functionality was. First of all, we have the good old Sprog Pi. This was the first one I used. I wanted something, again, if we're doing comparisons, I don't know how much something like an ECOS controller costs, but I suspect that it's quite a lot of money. And again, the real kind of important feature comparison for me, as well as cost, is amperage. This is quite a big layout with a lot of lines and a lot of trains running, so it has to be able to be capable of running a number of trains at the same time. Cost is important, features and extensibility as well. And the Pi really and the DCC-EX controller, this is a very old Sprog controller now. This is from maybe 2017, something like that, but it came with, I think, a 2.5 amp power supply, which actually I ran on my last layout and this one until really quite recently, and the Sprog always worked perfectly. It's a bit of a faff to set up because there's a guy called Steve Todd who does a Jmri image. I think you can get images actually with from the Sprog website as well, but you still need to be capable of imaging a Raspberry Pi, getting it all connected, doing a bit of config and that kind of thing. It's not massively connected, but it might be it might add a bit of a fear factor for some. And there's the cost of the Sprog, and I think the Sprog, this one cost me around the £60 mark, maybe £70 mark, with the 2.5 amp power supply. Raspberry Pis are quite rare these days and difficult to get hold of. I think this is a Raspberry Pi 4. The only reason why, and once it was set up, it ran Jmri and it ran this layout for quite a while. The reason why I moved on from that, and I've mentioned it recently and I did a video about it, was I couldn't get the performance of the Raspberry Pi to stay as fast and efficient as I needed it to once I moved into the whole automation, all of the sensors and responding sensors, running automatic trains, all that kind of thing. It did become quite slow, so I ended up having to look for alternatives to it. And the first alternative I looked at was the cheapest. This is it could be an Arduino Uno. I only had a Mega line around, and one of these Deek robot motor boards. And you connect them up. You connect a few wires, and you there are a couple of wires you need to connect in here. I think there's perhaps a bit of soldering I had to do on the board as well. I can't quite remember now. And put the DCC-EX sketch onto your Arduino, connect it up to a PC, get Jmri running, and connect it all up, configure it, and you can control trains. It needs a power supply, obviously. The issue I had with this board that I came to very quickly was it's not capable of a particularly high amperage output. And I have a Helgen, it's quite an old one, class 47, and even with just that train running, this could cut out. But certainly with two trains running around the layout, this thing was cutting out all the time. So it very quickly became an unviable option for me. And sticking with the Arduino, I then replaced the motor board with this, which is a MOSFET board. Again, I did do a video about this. I think it was in the same one as I kind of wrote the Raspberry Pi off as well. This is certainly the most stressful and complex setup that I did. It's very inexpensive. I think these boards are about £13–15, something like that. But they're capable of, and there are guides on how to do it on the DCC-EX website, which I went through at the time as well. But you need to get Hall sensors, both for monitoring output, so it can cut out if the amperage goes too high, but they're also required for on the programming track for reading CVs, so that it can read the voltage returned by the decoders and all that kind of stuff. I put fuses in there in line as well, so there was soldering involved with the fuses and getting all of the the hall sensors connected up, and then there was quite a bit of config to do. Again, you are guided through it on the DCC-EX website, but also this strange stuff. It was quite a stressful process of then connecting it up to my layout and worrying how it went. But I have to say, once it was done, once it was all configured, it ran perfectly reliably, and I had absolutely no issues with it at all. And then last of all, there's this is the DCC-EX command station. This is the one that plugs on top of an Arduino. A little bit more involved in setting it up, in that you've got to upload the sketch to the Arduino, but when connected to Jmri, it worked perfectly. And it is, I think it is capable of doing all the stuff that that this thing does, in that you can connect a screen to the top of it, you can connect a Wi-Fi shield kind of onto the top of this, and they all work together. But there is extra config that you have to do. You have to go into config files, you have to upload sketches and all that kind of stuff, which again is the stuff you simply don't need to do with this box. This box truly is plug and play. And so as a standalone, ready to plug and play device, I'm sure it's apparent already, but I'm really massively impressed. And for affordability compared to functionality and ease of use, I'm not sure I'm aware of any device available that would beat it. It is, of course, it in some ways, personally having used Jmri for so long, it seems a little bit limited in its functionality. And the first limit I came to when I was making this video was kind of CV programming. I've never had to program CVs before, and the reason I've never had to use program CVs before is because I use Jmri and I use the roster, and it has all these lovely interfaces for programming where I just tell it what it wants to do and it translates that into CVs. It also has this roster of trains available, so I don't need to worry what my DCC addresses are, and that might be functionality that's supported in that standalone box, but I kind of doubt it, and I didn't see it when I was looking around the app. So I believe, and I haven't tested this, I believe that box, as well as being able to act as a standalone device, will also connect to Jmri and become the booster and allow Jmri to be the command station in exactly the same way that I'd been working with all of the previous devices. I think it's not something that I want to include in this video, because I think it's important to get the beginner steps documented and not complicate them with anything else. But the box does have a USB connection, and I have read that it connects to Jmri, so I think I will make another video on connecting it to a PC for the first time, getting Jmri set up for the first time, and using it in that way, because I think even if someone doesn't want to use the automation function of Jmri or anything like that, the roster functionality of Jmri and its ability to program CVs and trains through a really quite helpful user interface is something that's available for free if there's an old computer or laptop lying around, and it adds a lot to that box. And actually, just as a quick addition to prove that it works, I have now connected a USB cable into the device and connected it to the PC over there that runs Jmri. And up here on the computer, I can see it's detected it on COM15. Although I probably had drivers installed already, so this isn't a beginner's guide as such, because this computer's already had ESPs and Arduinos attached to it and has drivers for it. So this is just a quick test to make sure Jmri will talk to it. Launching Jmri has given me this screen, which is not a surprise at all. That's just telling me that the device it was looking at before, which was my Arduino with it connected, is no longer available. So I'm going to switch the connection to COM15. Presumably, I'm going to check here. Yeah, I think it's just going to be the same connection. So I'm going to leave it on DCC serial port, switch it to COM15, save down here, and then just very quickly run Panel Pro with the new configuration settings. This is running the entire profile that I had before, And looking down at the power, there is a setting that I had on here that it has to wait 20 seconds after launching for the power control to be enabled. I think that was just to avoid a serial issue, but there we go, that button's gone red now. So if I press this button here, we've gone green and I've got lights on the trains down there. So as a very basic quick test, this box will, because the other one's not connected, it's entirely going through the new box now. The new box, as well as being that very quick plug and play device, it will also do exactly what the previous devices were doing as well. But I have to say, for absolute ease of use and ready to run functionality, this thing has been an absolute revelation to me. There literally are just 3 things connected to it now: the programming track, the bus wires for the main layout, and the power supply that came with it. And that really is it. It gives you a Wi-Fi network. You connect to the Wi-Fi network. You control as many trains as you like. I think you can have maybe 10 devices connected to it at one time, and each of those devices can handle 3 throttles. So it's a massive connectability. I only use Android, but I think there are apps available for iPhones as well. I'm not sure what the comparative functionality of those is. But I think what I really like is, as a beginner, you plug it in. It only took me a few minutes. I was filming it as well. Plug these things in, and there was nothing I did that I didn't film, and I was up and running. But for the life cycle of a layout, it's there for you at the beginning. It gets you up and running very quickly and gets trains going. It has a huge power capacity. 5 amps is more than I would ever need for this layout. I was getting by on 2.5 amps. But then with again, unproven because I haven't tested it yet, but with the possibility to connect via USB to a computer and to kind of act as a slave to Jmri, and there might be features there that I haven't explored anyway, that do more, but to then, support the kind of stuff I'm doing now just by being that booster to Jmri and support all the automation and everything. I could see that had I bought this on if had it been available on the day I first built a layout, it would still be going strong now, and it would still be supporting everything that I want to do at the minute.